He hasn't innovated Tesla except for the damn Cybertruck. Yeah. Nobody wants the Cybertruck except for a couple of men who are compensating themselves,
correct.
Right?
That would have been the move if Trump had picked the Cybertruck
But he
yesterday.
didn't. No. I meant to say that.
I feel like that might have been the one that got the conservatives.
No, it still hasn't sold enough. Yeah. It hasn't sold enough.
I guarantee Trump thought it looked stupid.
It looks stupid. He probably does, right? He's not getting in that car.
No way.
Oh, look, there's a computer in this car. That was crazy.
It's all computer.
It's all computer.
It's all been computer for 10 years, sir.
And it's not just Tesla. But, this brings up a good point because you know Elon very well. And Alyssa, you know President Trump. Do you guys think a breakup's going to come here? Do you think, or is it just now that Elon's giving him so much money, he's got no choice but to get along with him?
What do you think?
I think breakup comes, because he doesn't need the money since he's technically not running for president again. I just think that there's enough ego on both sides, but definitely on Trump's side, that if this narrative that he's sort of the shadow president, he's calling the shots, he outshines or gets more attention, I just see it coming to friction. But also, Elon's approvals are lower than Trump's.
Very much.
And Trump cares about public perception. He's not going to want someone else dragging him down. So I think he's going to use him as a fall guy when something inevitably from Doge goes terribly wrong. Say, VA benefits don't go out, Social Security, something
they kill
that
a phone bank.
Yeah, that real Americans feel and is tangible. He'll be the fall guy.
Interesting. I don't think so because I think he does want to keep making money, right? And he wants to keep the Trump empire going. They're in. These people are in crypto. This is such a grift. It's such a crazy grift.
No one's talking about it, or not enough people are talking about it.
I'm talking about it all the time. All the different various grifts, including what happened at the White House, right? That's ridiculous. And then the next day, there's not an announcement, but news that he's going to get his own little fund, $100 million.
You guys called that on Pivot. You predicted it, yeah.
Of course, we figured there's got to be a trade here for what he's getting. Everything. Trump doesn't deserve. He wants a VIG from everything. He's a VIG guy. I want a VIG. I want a piece of it. I did this. Therefore, I think Elon's been very effective in being a beta, even though he's an alpha, acting like a beta when he's an alpha. When he needs to put his head down, he is, which I'm surprised by because he's not good at that. But he does recognize, I think he thinks Trump is a moron. I still think, even though he says he loves him, like more than any straight man should, which is creepy.
That was bizarre.
There is a sense of belonging that he misses. I mean, if you're at Mar-a-Lago on New Year's and you're the richest man in the world, where would you be if you were at Mar-a-Lago?
The farthest place away.
I literally would buy France and give everybody wine.
Correct.
Come on.
It'd be a yacht on the Mediterranean.
Think of all the fun things you could do. Like you're dating the most beautiful woman. Anyway, so there's some emptiness in him that he has to be there. But I do think that Scott, and I think I tend to agree with him, it's going to fade away. He's going to realize how at risk, not just Tesla. Tesla's already on the ropes, and it's going to go down because all these things, not just that he's polarizing, but competition, lack of innovation, and it's just this happens. This is what happens. Cars go in and out of favor. Secondly, Starlink is getting hit now around the globe by other countries. Europe that are using Starlink are going to alternates like the European Satellite Consortium. The price of that stock has gone up triple in the past month, and then there's China, which is moving into that space. China's walking around to every European head of state and saying, why are you doing Starlink? Right? And we'll offer you better stuff. And they do have just as good stuff. And then Jeff Bezos has that. And so that is his golden goose. And if it gets cooked before, he's going to have margin calls. Even if you're the world's richest man, you're not liquid. And that's going to be an interesting situation. And then he won't be able to get advertisers to force them to advertise on X. Because if you don't, something could happen to your little company. You know that.
Elon Musk, he aligns himself with Trump, who, of course, these EV-loving liberals hate. Tesla's stock price is falling. Car sales are falling, both in the U.S. and internationally. So I have two questions here. Can Tesla survive this? And is there a world in which Republicans flock to EVs to compensate for the liberals who have left?
No, they are not. His audience is a particular group of people who believe in climate change, as did Elon Musk many, many years ago. He was quite adamant on it and quite dramatic. And so I think what he's done is the biggest destruction of, well, there's a couple things, because I think it's easy to blame it on nobody likes him, which his negatives are quite high, especially with his customers. When you do things that your customers don't like, it's, the customer's always right, no matter what it is. And I don't think that the people the MAGA groups are not rushing to EVs. They find they're hostile to them, right? And so was Trump until just the other day when he had the car sale on the lawn of the White House. But he was hostile to electric vehicles. And so this is not a group of people that wants to buy these things. They don't even want to buy the Cybertruck, which is sort of in their genre, right? They've only sold 45,000 trucks. They were supposed to sell 250,000. They have not. And they've had to recall them all because they were badly glued. And I think the real problem with Tesla is it's a meme stock. And the reason it's as high as it is, which is 134, a PE ratio of 134, which is insane because most car companies are in the single digits, right? PE ratios. Yeah. And so it's a meme stock that's betting on Elon Musk. And one of the things that they're betting on is that he's going to do robo-taxis. Well, the problem is Waymo's been doing them for several years in San Francisco and other cities. So he doesn't have one robo-taxi on the road, while others are innovating. The second thing is that the cars have not been updated. What you live or die in the car business and the technology business by your latest version. And as good a car, and let me say Teslas are good cars, it's not as good as other new cars that are coming. And so there's all these new competitors now, including in China with BYD. Here, there's plenty of different competitors. They're all growing market share, and Tesla's losing it, which is a natural thing for it to happen because it was the only choice. But when you get a choice as a consumer, you want to go with the sexy BMW or the really cool Ford. The Ford has several, I think it's the Mach 5, beautiful electric car. And so if you have this Tesla that looks the same year after year and you don't like the guy, you're like, I think I'll get the cool one with the people I kind of like, or I don't care, they don't sit around and insult all manner of people that I happen to like. So that's the other thing. And so the other thing that's then promising is that it's an AI company, that it's a robotics company. And Elon's always promising the next thing. And maybe one of them will be right. And he's saying that the robotics company is what it's going to be. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. He can say what he damn well pleases. And I like that he's like shooting for the moon, but the products aren't there to make up for the market share of this company going down. And then on top of it, he's dislikable. And so you don't want to buy his stuff. That's all.
Well, look, I think all of this was so easy to preview. I mean, I spoke with Mark Cuban in the lead up to the election about how Elon Musk was so clearly aligning himself with Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
And so how like for him, unless he really does plan on just pivoting away from direct to consumer sales and going full blown AI or robo taxis or B2B, whatever it may be, like how could he not have foreseen what aligning yourself with Donald Trump would do to his brand?
Because he's benefiting from other things. Like, look, these new auto tariffs benefit Tesla. Right. Just so it's the only company that gets benefited. Nobody else does, just Tesla. And so, he's got more space contracts for Starlink. The government is the biggest buyer of things. And so what does he need the rest of us lousy people when he's got Trump to give him contracts? So, the government, that's where all tech is moving toward, because why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. Why do you suck up to government? Because that's where the money is. And so even as he talks about cutting, he's benefiting enormously. And also by getting rid of the people that were investigating some of his problems at each of these companies. And so he's gotten rid of the regulators, which he always wanted to do. And he's getting sweet, fat contracts. And that's what's sad here is because real progress in technology depends on innovation. Instead, it now depends on access. It doesn't depend on how good your product is now. It depends on how close you are to this, to this very corrupt president. And so that's not innovation. That's not what got Elon to where he is today. And so the problem he has is, as good an entrepreneur he is, a lot of it is he's kind of a P.T. Barnum character in many. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like when he did that stupid thing where he's like, we're going to do robo-taxis. I'm like, I'm in a robo-taxi right now. You're not the pioneer of, like I'm riding around Sanford. Yesterday I took 3 or 4 Waymos all over Sanford. They're everywhere. And they've got millions of miles they've tested. And so and also I don't trust the safety of the Tesla as much because they let fewer points of safety. So I'm not going to use a Tesla, but I also didn't use the GM thing because I didn't think the technology was up to it. It wasn't a political thing. It was, if I'm in a driverless car, I'm going to be a safe driverless car or the safest I can. Yeah. And so it's, it's hard. And then when you're at over 100, what I just said, PE ratio, the General Motors, which has much bigger business than Tesla does, is at 7.41 PE ratio. Think about that. Yeah. It's a meme stock based on Elon. And so, he's very good at that. Like with Twitter, the business is less good and Now the valuation is up because you're buying Elon Musk Inc. You're not buying this shitty social media site where advertising is doesn't work. You're just doing it so you're paying the vig, and that's not capitalism as far as I can see.
Well, look, I want to zoom out a little bit. Republicans have been really effective more broadly over the decades at finding villains. George Soros has been one, again, for decades.
Sure.
Is Musk not just the same exact thing, if not worse, on the right as the very thing that Republicans have clutched their pearls about on the left for decades?
Well, hello, they went on and on about safety of communications, and they just did the worst thing ever. And and they're like on Hillary Clinton. These people don't have, the hypocrisy is so thick. It's kind of ridiculous. And there's lots. We'll talk about that in a second. But yes, he's explicitly right. Keep this in mind. Every accusation is a confession with these people. Whatever they say, I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. Right. So if they accuse someone of something, it's because that's what they're doing. Elon is exactly what they claim to have hated with George Soros. But he's explicit and right in front of you buying elections. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing in Wisconsin right now. That's what he's doing everywhere.
He's straight up paying people to sign a petition in Wisconsin, which is basically just him saying he's buying votes, which is, the same scheme that he pulled in Pennsylvania.
And it worked. Let me just tell you, it worked. By the way, well, thank you, Citizens United. It's legal to do this, what he's doing. Now, maybe they'll stop him for all kinds of reasons, but Elon Musk, one of the great attributes of him, he blows through stop signs. That's his greatest skill, is blowing through stop signs. And so that's what he's going to do until you stop him. And of course, nobody now is going to stop him because Trump needs him for a variety of reasons, for not just the money, because there's plenty of rich people, but he's willing to take the heat for Trump in a way that's really significant. Elon's negatives are way down. Trump's are just slightly down, right? But Trump is Elon, and Elon is Trump, but Elon's taking away, he's a heat shield, in rocket terms is what he's doing.
But do you think that sticks? Do you think that let's say there comes a point where Elon does lose his political, his political usefulness for Trump, and Trump finally cuts bait. Do you think that then Trump basically gets to start fresh, and all of the negatives just rest on Elon? He's gone, so that Trump just gets to start over fresh?
No, because Elon's approval rating is falling through the floor. I've never seen such a brand destruction as this. Yeah. This is really quite something. I don't know. I think he thinks, Elon's a massive distraction, and at the same time is doing significantly troubling things, right? But even North Carolinians don't like the major federal agency cuts. They don't like any of this. And so Musk is a very polarizing figure. And even though Republicans view him favorably, I suspect more and more, as you're seeing all over the place, we don't like this guy. What is he doing here? And it's not to say other presidents haven't had rich people secretly around them, but nothing like this. Not someone whose finger is in the pie so explicitly.
Right.
And I think people like their corruption quiet, I guess. I don't know what to say or something. But this guy is explicitly tit for tat. Let's get rid of the agencies that are investigating me in any way. And by the way, look, I get it. Some of the investigations are over the top, as many bureaucrats can be. At the same time, maybe they're not. Right. The other thing is everyone's for reforming government and making it work better for citizens, but not everyone's for doing it with the subtlety of a chainsaw. Right. They don't want that. They want someone to pick and choose what's good and what's bad and to figure it out. And I don't think, this Doge thing isn't very popular. And that's that. And so I think he'll dump it when that becomes clear. If he loses the midterm elections, and he's not finding that much. What he's proving, by the way, is the government's kind of efficient. He's not finding much, right? He's really not.
The fact that they have to lie about these cuts and say that they've cut $8 billion where there's only $8 million. When you have to start lying about cuts that Joe Biden already made during his administration, and then you're taking credit for them during Trump's administration, that's kind of a testament to the fact that, to your exact point, government is running pretty efficiently right now. But more broadly, it's an interesting tack, because while I get that it might sound nice to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, the reality is that loss aversion is a pretty powerful tool in politics. And so eventually you're going to start chopping away at constituencies that you need, that are effective. Everybody might start off on board when you just offer up this nebulous idea of cutting waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right.
But when that starts to look like, okay, now we've cut off, with USAID, clean water, clean food, HIV prevention, when it means that you have to start chopping away at Medicaid, at food stamps, at FEMA. Right.
It's the leopard ate my face. Oh, I didn't think the leopard was going to eat my face.
Right.
But what's interesting about the polling is it depends on what you ask. If you say to people, should we do efficiency? There was one, everyone says yes, 70-80% of people, yes. Should we? They didn't specifically ask about Doge. When you start to ask specifically about Doge, they're like, no, we don't like this. We don't like how he's doing it. There's a big difference between this, and that's the right is very smart about this. They get a little piece of something. Immigration is problematic in many states and worrisome. That's true. It's true. Democrats should not have ignored that. Like, people were saying it to them. We're worried about our jobs. We're worried about the price of eggs. We're worried about this. And to ignore it is stupid. But the response to it, that you think voters aren't smart, and they are. And so when you ask them whether you like these, whether you disapprove, all of them say he has too much authority. He's unfettered. He's rich. He's a rich guy. He's obnoxious. They're doing too much. They've gone too far. And so, and more those polls, there's a Washington Post Ipsos poll. There's all, disapproval all over the place, concern all over the place. And you should be concerned as a citizen, because you want your government to be efficient, but you don't want it to be. And so, and then his other antics, whatever he's doing, being anti-trans and everything else, it's distasteful and cruel when he calls people the R word and stuff like that. I'm not even going to use it because it's so stupid. Yeah. And there's Republicans kind of like it because they like Trump for his in-your-face stuff. But when it starts to affect them, they don't like it so much.
Yeah.
I talked to, highly trained engineers and technicians who arrived at the Gigafactory in Nevada to a traffic jam, didn't know what was going on. Security guards were scanning their badges, and if the badge did not work, that was how you learned that you no longer had a job. I've never seen as much anger and anguish and frustration on LinkedIn, of all places, as I have over the past week. It's a sign that the layoffs were very hastily planned.
In his memo, Musk outlined the rationale was like cost reduction and productivity. And I think as the days went by and we spoke to some pretty key sources high up in the company, it had very little to do with either productivity or cost reduction. I think it was just like Musk coming back, having been distracted for quite a long time at a lot of other companies. And he started paying attention again at Tesla. And he was very upset and angry about the first quarter delivery numbers. And his logic was very basic. If deliveries were down 20% sequentially quarter on quarter, then they should just cut headcount by 20%.